Now, this is a chart that I could spend an hour on, but my time is limited. This is what we call the Forrester wave. This is the typical graphic that Forrester uses to grade vendors. On the x-axis is strategy, weak and strong, and on the y-axis is product, weak and strong. And what I want to do now is put all the vendors on this graphic. So upper right-hand quadrant is where you want to be. That's the great place. And I'm going to give you a little warning that before I put the vendors up, it looks a little bit like those movies from the Depression where there's a guy in a restaurant and he's eating a big steak. He's having a wonderful meal. And there's a window, and on the window, all these little children have their faces pressed up against the window, looking at the guy eating his wonderful meal. Starving children. So it looks a little bit like that. Upper right-hand quadrant, Apple. I think that we would like to imagine that Steve Jobs and Apple were always brilliant, and I think obviously they were very smart, but a lot of luck played into them being in the upper right-hand quadrant. Remember, Steve Jobs never envisioned that others would write apps for the iPhone or the iPad. He was talked into that later. But there's Apple. Now I'm going to put all of the traditional vendors up here. Salesforce, IBM, looking probably better positioned than many of the other players. And then the third group are what I would call the web huggers, the companies who are very focused on the web, Google, Facebook, and some of these foreign companies like RenRen, very HTML focused. Remember, Google, if they could, would stop the world from turning. They love the web. Every time you click on the web, they have a chance to make money. They do not want the web to end. In fact, looking at Google here, I think that they're coming up on what I would call a Lenin-Trotsky moment at Google, because you have much of Google still focused on the web, but as Marissa just said, we also have some of Google now focused toward Android. I have Google down at this lower point, even though they're in the Android business, because only about 3 to 4% of their revenue comes from Android today. And then I know many of you in this room are focused on opportunities. There are some very cool opportunities in App Internet. Software entrance, as I said, a $2.2 billion market, now growing 85%. Platform entrance, and also services serving the App Internet business. Now, it's kind of cool.